Welcome to the Tech Playbook, where we dive inside the stack. This is where we explore how products are built, how teams work, and the systems and decisions that power modern technology. And today, we're tackling something that can feel, well, a little complicated: how a modern sales team actually works. It's way more than just one person making calls. We're going to break down all the specialized roles that make up a real high-powered revenue engine. Right? It's like welcome to the alphabet soup of sales. You hear these acronyms thrown around all the time: SDR, BDR, AE, CSM. It can definitely feel like you need a secret decoder ring just to keep up. But here's the thing: they aren't just random titles. Each one is a highly specialized part of a really sophisticated machine. And in this explainer, we're going to give you that decoder ring and make it all make sense. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to follow the customer's journey step by step. First, we'll look at the folks responsible for finding the customer. Then we'll see who steps in for closing the deal. After that, we'll explore the crucial teams that focus on keeping the customer happy and growing. We'll also touch on the essential support system that's powering the team. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together in the modern revenue engine. All right, let's dive in. Every single sales process has to start somewhere, right? It starts at the very top of the funnel, with a team whose whole job is to generate brand new opportunities. This is the prospecting vanguard. They're the first point of contact. Okay, so right at the top, you've got these two key players, the SDR and the BDR. The absolute easiest way to tell them apart is to think about where the lead comes from. A sales development rep, the SDR, is a qualifier. They handle inbound leads, people who've already raised their hand, maybe by filling out a form on your website. In contrast, the business development rep, the BDR, is a hunter. They're all about outbound, proactively finding people who've never even heard of you. Let's break that down a little more. The SDR is basically reactive. They're working with warm leads that marketing sends their way, and their success is pretty simple to measure. Did they book a qualified meeting? The BDR, on the other hand, is totally proactive. They're doing the digging, the strategic research. They're measured on sourcing entirely new opportunities. So one vets existing interest, the other one creates it from scratch. Okay, so once an SDR or a BDR qualifies a lead and books that meeting, what happens? Well, it's time for a handoff. Let's move to the next stage and meet the people who are responsible for turning a promising conversation into a signed contract. This is the conversion engine. And this is where the account executive, or AE, steps onto the scene. If you think of a classic salesperson, this is probably who you're picturing. They are, simply put, the closer. The SDR or BDR finds the opportunity, passes the baton, and the AE owns it from there, all the way to the finish line. Their entire world revolves around turning that opportunity into a win. But it's not just a single phone call. A good AE follows a really structured process. They start with deep discovery to really understand a business's problems. Then they tailor product demos to solve those exact problems. They build business cases, handle tough negotiations with multiple stakeholders, and finally, they get that contract signed. But hold on, what happens when the product is super complex or technical? I mean, the AE can't be an expert on every single nut and bolt, right? Of course not. That's when they call for backup. They bring in the technical experts who can go super deep. And this is a really crucial distinction. You have the sales engineer, the SE, and the solutions architect, the SA. They sound similar, but their jobs are different. The SE is the product expert. They answer the question, how does this thing actually work? The SA is the strategic advisor. They answer the question, how will this help my business achieve its goals? One is about features, the other is all about outcomes. And you can see this difference in who they talk to. The sales engineer is usually deep in the weeds with the IT teams, the technical folks who need to validate everything. The solutions architect, on the other hand, is often in the room with C-level executives talking business strategy. The SE's approach is tactical and feature-focused. The SA's is strategic and outcome-focused. For a big, complex deal, you absolutely need both. All right, the deal is signed, the contract is in, but the journey is far from over. In fact, in today's world, especially with subscription-based software, what happens after the sale is just as important, and sometimes even more important than the sale itself. And this number right here is exactly why this is so critical: 70%. Let that sink in for a second. In many B2B companies, over 70% of their revenue comes from the customers they already have. We're talking renewals, upsells, expansion. This makes the post-sale team absolutely essential for any kind of long-term sustainable growth. So who are these key post-sale players? You've got the Customer Success Manager, the CSM, and the Account Manager, or AM. Think of it like this. The CSM is proactive. They're the value advocate, making sure the customer is actually succeeding with the product so they don't leave. The AM is more commercially focused. They manage the financial relationship to drive renewals and find new revenue opportunities. And the metrics tell the real story here. A CSM is judged on things like churn rate and customer health. Are customers using the product? Are they happy? An AM, on the other hand, has a sales quota. It's about revenue. So you can think of the CSM as a coach or a farmer nurturing the relationship. The AM is the commercial point of contact. So we have prospectors, closers, and growers. But who supports them? You can't just throw people into these roles and expect them to succeed. There's an essential behind-the-scenes system that gives them the tools, training, and processes they need to win. Two of the most critical functions here are sales enablement and sales operations. Here's a simple way to remember the difference. Enablement is all about the people. They're the performance catalysts, providing the training and content to make sellers better. Operations is all about the process. They're the infrastructure builders, managing the tech and data that make the whole system run. One powers the seller, the other powers the system. Okay, so we've met all the players on the field. Now let's zoom out one last time and see how all these specialized roles connect to form a single cohesive system, a modern revenue engine that's built for scale. The whole thing really works like an assembly line for the customer's journey. It all starts with the BDRs and SDRs whose job is to find the business. Then it gets handed off to the AEs, SEs, and SAs to close the deal. After that, the CSMs and AMs step in to grow that relationship over the long haul. Empowering it all from behind the scenes, you've got enablement and ops providing support. See, every single role has a clear purpose, moving the customer seamlessly through their life cycle. So that's the playbook. But I want to leave you with a final thought. We all know AI is getting better and better at automating routine tasks, like finding leads or entering data. So as that happens, which of these human-centric roles do you think become even more critical? The ones focused on deep strategy, complex negotiation, and building genuine long-term relationships? Those might just be the ones that become more valuable than ever. Thanks for tuning in to this episode brought to you by the Tech Playbook Inside the Stack. Like, comment, and subscribe for clear, practical tech education. This is the Tech Playbook, and you're inside the stack.